Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Today I've got JJ Reynolds with me. He's got a company called Media Authentic and also another company that he started, betterthandata.com. We're excited to learn more about JJ, about his companies, and more specifically about why he started them. How are you doing today, JJ?
Hey, doing well, Ken. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining the show. You've been in this business for a while, online marketing, gathering those statistics, really looking at the customer's buyer journey. These are things that I think small and medium-sized businesses are hearing about today more and more with Facebook and Instagram. But you've been doing this for quite some time, it appears. How long have you been doing Media Authentic? Just kind of the 50,000 foot view.
The 50,000 foot view of the company is originally started just as myself way back in the day. And it was more of a actual video production company. That's why the name, you're like, what's happening there? And so originally I was like shooting videos mostly for wineries, kind of running and gunning by myself. The progression of the journey of both myself and the company was, hey, we can make content. Hey, there's a boost button in Facebook. Hey, what happened? They took our money. And basically that was the progression. And then I realized I should figure out what the numbers mean behind all this stuff that's happening. And then got sucked into the rabbit hole that is kind of measurement as a whole of using data to guide decisions. And then found out that hey, we're really good at this. Ended up hiring more and more of a team. And now we just serve that need within companies that don't have an in-house team. So that's the quick and dirty 50,000 foot view of how that company was started, the name behind it, and now here we are today.
Very similar paths. I was a video kid early back in the day in the 90s. So what got you interested into doing that kind of work in the first place? What brought you? Are you an entrepreneur because you love video, or are you an entrepreneur because you love entrepreneurship? What's the story there?
Oh, I'm an entrepreneur because I love entrepreneurship. I started out even in high school. I started a lawn care company where we would if you go door to door, you're hey, pay me $5, and I'll mow your lawn, right? As a high schooler, you could make money that way. But I found out you could make an LLC, and then you could go to property managers and say, hey, for $60 an hour, we'll mow your lawn twice a week at these locations, and then you can do some facility things. And so in high school, I was even doing stuff like that of kind of hey, if you make it a little bit more formal than hey, give me money and I'll do this thing, and you are good on your word, you could get actual money in the door. And then over time that just I was okay, I can make videos, someone will pay me for this, oh cool, I just was futzing around shooting videos of my friends and things and putting them on YouTube. And then wineries were in the area, and I was hey, I could do this for you guys. And then it was shooting videos for wineries, and then just was what's the next step? What do you do with a video? Oh, you put it on the internet. Oh, then what do you do with that? Oh, it's one paid media to it. So the progression of my journey was kind of quick and dirty. And then I was let's just keep going. And then the numbers are kind of where you start. And I think with video, because videos, with data, everybody's what the heck? I don't understand it, right? And I like to give the example of, if you know anything about cameras, right? You've got aperture and shutter speed and all these ISO. If you're listening and you don't know what things, just skip.
You've heard all these terms before too, right?
And so when you click the shutter button, you don't know what's going to happen. But the better of a photographer you are, and you can shoot manual. Back when they had DSLRs and not these SLRs, you could click the button. And then you'd have to guess kind of what the room settings were, what the white balance was and everything else. And now in business, it's the same thing. You like have an offer, and the better you know your numbers, like up front when you're building a new thing, when you're starting a new thing, the better, like you're closer you're going to get to the expected outcome. Similar to like if you're a photographer, like the better you know all of your like aperture and shutter, and you want to have a little motion blur. Okay, we need to lower shutter speed. Like if you know all these things and you're a really good photographer, you can kind of nail it on the first shot and second shot, right? And then with business, same kind of goes. The longer you're in it, the more you know your numbers and like what influences what, you can like take your shot at like launching a new offer or a new business or a new whatever and like hit it on the first try. But most people like will just take that first photo and be like, I suck at photography. I'm going to go shoot in auto mode, which is like going to go get like a normal like job and then being good. Like that's totally fine. You can shoot in auto. That's not a problem. So that's my long example that takes photography and ties it to data. If you go back on that journey with me
on the entrepreneur path, right? If you go back and you look at the photographer, even a seasoned photographer isn't just taking a single shot whenever he thinks he's got the settings perfect. He's taking 10, 20, 100, maybe 1,000 shots with those quick shutters. So that's something to be learned in business as well. You're not going to nail it on every get to bat as frequently as possible. And when you get to bat, take as many shots as you possibly can, right? Just get as much work as you possibly can when you're healthy and you're able to do it, right? And
exactly
one of those shots is going to be good, right?
Yes.
Is what
just make sure all the shots that you take, like don't put you down further than you'd expect. Right. I think that's the biggest thing. Like if it's one thing to go try to hit a baseball and miss, but then like another thing is like to try to hit a baseball and like you throw out your back, right? Like then you're not hitting anything for the next 6 months.
Absolutely. JJ, the show, I want to promote your business as much as possible and tell people your story. But it's not very frequent that I get to talk to a video guy, right? And I think we're in a very unique spot in history today in 2023, early 2023 with AI and editing and video production and creation, right? If you don't mind talking a little future stuff and a little go backwards a little bit, give the audience a little bit of history and video, I would love to do that with you if you've got the time to do that.
Yeah, like I'm happy to go throughout the like the creative journey here.
So, I can't help but to notice through my career in the 90s, I was going through film school, late 90s, mid 90s actually. And I was learning how to cut reel to reel, right? Tape, splice and tape and all that stuff with my grease marker, all those fun stuff. Learning how to edit video, A/B roll, like all of those kinds of things. And I got my internship. Luckily, I got to work at a place called the Kiel Center here in St. Louis, where the St. Louis Blues play. I got to work for the Jumbotron. Got to learn a tremendous amount of stuff. And I recall we got a new Media 100 machine. It was $90,000. And I remember sitting down with 8 gig hard drive with my 1-inch tape sitting next to me and editing this for the first time in nonlinear editing. And I said, I'm leaving this industry. This is anybody can do this job now, right? It's gone. I find it hilarious that that's the stance that I took in 1998. And in 2020, I'm going back into this industry because the tools now are to a place to where anybody could do the job then, but it still took $100,000 to get started. But today, the barrier to entry to create video, to start a company today that's centered around video, I think a person can do a really good job with a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this like the other day of like the like AI and all these like new things. And like you could say new as like the cost of a video camera, right? Like when you had like the reel to reel like editing, when you had like the big like huge cinema cameras, and there was no like camera in your pocket, there just was cinema camera, like that was all you had, right? And it was like 90 grand or hundreds of thousands of dollars for those, right? And so like over time, like if you take something today of like the highest end prosumer camera is like 5 grand, maybe 10 grand, like if you're really going for it, right? And you could shoot a movie on that. Like the Super Bowl has slow-mo cameras that are like literally like $4,000 that they're shooting the Super Bowl on. And so like I think my hot take on it is that over time, the barrier to creation is going to end up at zero. Okay. So like with AI, you can hit like, write me a blog post about this. Right. And it's not devaluing the content. What it's doing is it's bringing making the non-helpful content, the useless content, the barrier is literally zero. Okay.
Yes.
Like, you can have it spit out a photo. You can have it spit out whatever. And like, it's a terrible photo. It's a terrible thing. The cost of that was literally zero.
Correct.
And so what's happening, I think, over time is that anybody can go buy a nice camera, a couple $1,000s, but like what you do with it now is so much more important. And like, that's where like the marketing, the creativity, the the how you frame the thing is, like, I would say infinitely more important than it ever was. Because when there was the cinema cameras, you could record a paint drying and it would be like, have some viewership because people were like, oh my goodness, I've never seen paint dry on video before. Whereas now you have to that's anybody can do that with your phone. You just stand it up on this thing and we could have 6 billion videos of paint drying going. So that's my take on it, is that you have to have more creativity, more creative process, more thought behind it to make something, and more marketing to make something actually useful.
Yeah, it's so crazy because I remember leaving the film industry and going into the internet in '99 thinking, wow, this is the future. And I nailed it pretty much, right? I a little too early in some industries, a little too late in others. But the video has been a constant staple through my career the entire time. And early, 2005 to 2015, it wasn't as needed, but it feels like in 23, I don't know how can a company survive in 2024 with no video production?
I think it'd be real hard. I think it'd be difficult. I think about us, we have a YouTube channel for Better Than Data. It's called Better Than Data. If you want to go on YouTube and type in Better Than Data, that Stockton, who's the head of our tech stuff, and I we do a video every other week. I make a video one week, he makes it another week, and we'll stream decks. We got all these things. It's we can make a video that's pretty quality within an hour, and you hit and publish on YouTube. And I think before we had that YouTube channel, lead gen was so slow. And I was man, that was the that was the game changer. And because we know our numbers, and if you are interested in knowing your numbers, betterthandata.com, shameless plug. So then if you know your numbers, we know hey, YouTube contributes 60% of our lead gen, direct from YouTube. People we say hey, if you're interested in more, click this button down below, bam. Lead. And the other 40% people that just didn't do it on the click, and they Googled us later and found it, right? That's what it is. Right. And so I don't think it's possible. I think you need some sort of video. You can get real good with writing if you're in the right industry. If you're in the right blog post stuff that. I don't think SEO is dead like some people claim it to be, but
no. All things are always relevant, right?
Yeah.
They're all going to be somewhat relevant, just where you're going to focus your time and energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Super fascinating topic. I think it's wildly important, and I want to create as much value for the audience as possible. I am wildly familiar with that video production for the brick and mortar activity locations, the gyms, the axe throwing companies, right? Advising them on, it's super simple, right? Have your front desk staff with a phone, interview your guests when they come in, shoot little videos of them doing this stuff while they're there. Right, put that out on all whatever channels that you want. It's free. It's super easy to grow those brick and mortar businesses in the strip malls, right? But when you go up the chain, right, and you're now, and you really specialize in that $10 to $100 million company, right? And although they're making a lot more money, they tend to be a hell of a lot more boring companies, right? Manufacturing. Blueprints, engineering, facility design stuff, right? What can somebody, and I've got some ideas, and I probably even have some products to help them in their creation. But from you, since you specialize in that core, what kind of value can you give, or some ideas that a manufacturing company could use to create content that would be relevant to them, or the electrician firm, right? That $2 to $10 million electrician company.
Yeah, I think it comes down, it like regardless of what you're doing, because I think there's like, if you know what a Venn diagram is, if you're listening, I know we're giving visual examples on a podcast. I know, ironic, but imagine you have two circles with an overlap in the middle. Okay, on one side you have the opportunity identification. Okay, so this is like where you have like, I think we can do X, like whatever it might be. It doesn't matter if you're doing like $5 a month or $50 million a month. You have to identify an opportunity. Okay.
Right.
So then on the right side of your Venn diagram, something like you have two sides, right? The other side is your ability to execute on that thing. Okay. And then the overlap in the middle is where your idea matches your execution. Okay. So like if you and I, like if we were like, hey, let's start a business together, and we were like, let's make video, like a video production thing. Like we have enough skills between the two of us that we could probably, even though we don't draw on those skills every day, like we've got like team now, we've got all these things, like we may not draw on them, but we have enough ideas of like the process and the systems and okay, aperture and good quality lighting and everything else, right? We could execute on that in like a week. Like
right.
We could do it. And so that's what you like, regardless of the size of your business, is like step one, identify opportunity, write them down. Hey, I think if we make a blog, like I have enough SEO knowledge to that. I think we can like get to the top of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like I think if we start a YouTube channel, like we could make enough videos to do A, B, and C. You have to have a hypothesis first, and then you have to have the ability to execute. Right. And I think like people fail regardless of size of company. Like I've seen $50 million companies fail, and I've seen $50,000 companies fail. Where you have one without the other. You have that idealist with like the entrepreneur that's like the like squirrel, like, oh yeah, let's do this thing, and then like let's do this thing, and let's do this thing. Right?
Not guilty at all.
They never execute on it, right? And then you have the executioner who's like doing the thing, but like has no idea reason why. Like they're like, why am I doing this thing? And so that was like a very roundabout answer to the question. But like, regardless of the size, like if you have an idea of like, oh, hey, I think it'd be great to have like a video series about installing electrical wires or whatever. Like there's like so many things. I found an optometrist. I wear glasses, recently got contacts. Okay. So like I was like, how on earth do I put these things in my eyes? Like I got to touch my eyeballs. What the heck? Googled how to put contacts in on the YouTubes. And this guy came up that was like an optometrist that has a YouTube channel that has like almost 1 million like subscribers, and every video has millions of views. And I'm like, this guy is like running an ophthalmologist clinic, like a whatever in Ohio, and is like, I don't think that you can do like consults on Zoom for like for eyes. Like I don't think that's even a thing, because you have to have like a measurement device. And I was just like, he had an idea that was like, people are Googling these things. Let's make a high enough video production. I have an entire clinic that we're not being utilized some hours of the day. And let's make some I know how to put contacts in. Like I know how to do all these things. And I'm also a doctor.
Right.
And so like, that's like the perfect execution of, regardless of your company size, of like idea plus execution. And that overlap is what makes success, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And on the execution side, I think it's really important to know if you have a team that can do it. Depending on what your project is, can you do it repetitively, right? So we know that creating one how-to video and putting it on YouTube does nothing. Putting one YouTube video on YouTube and promoting it for 5 years can be a completely different game, right? So it's a lot of different stuff. I like to create, so I really don't care if like about the numbers if people are watching it. I like to create stuff, and I like having conversations. If I can do those two things, and pay my mortgage, I don't really give a shit about anything else. So I get to make my content the way I want to. So there's no defined times. There's no absolute concept of what the show is. I mean, it's always business, but it gives me the opportunities to talk about this kind of stuff, which I think is really, really important for all businesses going into this stage of the internet 3.0, where we're at. And I can't help to think if you don't have a video strategy of some kind in 2024, you're done.
Yeah, I think it's like if you like put down a piece of paper, right? And like this is like what we do. Like we do this with all of our clients, like that are even large, and like we teach this in Better Than Data of like write down all of the ways someone can enter into your like system, right? If that's an email, like do you have like cheat sheets? Do you have white papers? Do you have free courses? Like what
and is that the awareness moment where they become aware of your business?
That's like becoming like entering into like your like they fill out a form and bam, they're on your email list. Okay.
Right.
So then you back out from there. So maybe you have like a list of like 3. Like most people have 0, if not 1.
Oh wow.
Like in general, like there's not like I think that most companies like don't have a lot. And then aside from buying something, right? Like that's usually like where like it enters. But write down all those things and then say, how is someone going to find out about this? And then that's like you go up of like, okay, they're going to find out of it from a YouTube video. Cool. Do we have YouTube videos? Right? Like that's the thing of like most people will create something and then hit publish on it and be like, this is going to make me millions. And then they're crickets when they hit publish because they didn't like think of like, okay, like where is it going to go from here?
Right.
And so that's like what I'd advise is like, you can get really granular with the numbers. Like we've got like, we know, for example, it's like almost 1% of our YouTube view, like if we get 1,000 YouTube views in a day, we'll get 1% of those people to become a lead.
Correct.
Like, and because we know like how many people click on the links, how many people go to the site, people like that go like, you know, that 40% of people that hit the page, fill out the form. We know all of these numbers, but like, not because I know all those, I can tell you like about 1%, give or take like 0.2% of our YouTube views turn into email newsletter subscribers. And like that tells you so much about your business because you have this leading indicator that is so leading. Like a YouTube video and email subscribers usually like you don't think of as the same thing.
Right.
But for us, we know like those numbers and like we're measurement guys to begin with and gals. And so that's kind of like what I'd like say if you're going to start something, kind of back it out from there.
Right. And so, and I'll let the audience know my dirty little secret on why I create my show and how I do this. Right. So I create these episodes for Clicks and Bricks podcast, and I have several other B2B services that I offer. So I'm not sure, what town are you in, JJ?
Reno, Nevada.
You're in Reno, Nevada. So, and we don't do this for all episodes, but you're in Reno, Nevada. You've got your business owner there, and I've diagnosed that maybe people in that area want email services because they're tired of their Gmail services, right? We made an episode. I've aligned myself with somebody in Reno, Nevada, a business owner that people might know. I'll promote this video in the Reno area to business owners in that area. They'll get to know me, and then later, I will only show a video to the people that have watched a specific amount of this, another video of me trying to talk to them about, hey, I've got this email service that can save you time and money. Book a call with me. So, and it's super cheap to do, right? We're going to take an hour. I create this content. We've got it forever, right? We've aligned with a local business owner in a community, and we've created content for ourselves. And I think until people understand how that whole process works, we're going to keep getting people that aren't understanding how to grow their business in this industry, in this new era of marketing, right? And I don't know that they're teaching that in the colleges today.
Oh, definitely not. Like there's so many, like our latest hire, this woman who is like fairly close to like out of college. And I was like, I don't care if you have a degree. Like, I don't care. Like, it's no pro. Are you like,
it might be a negative.
Yeah. Like, are you able to, like A, think about things, B, Google things, and C, like do what you say you're going to do. And like, if you can do those three things, and it helps to have a level of intelligence, on top of that, of like beyond like a little bit more than street smart, but like, you know, having some idea of like, hey, this is wrong. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
like you're going to be great, and I will like you will learn and you will grow and you'll do all these things, but like nothing that you know from your university is going to be applicable to what we're doing, because we're like, for us at least, what we're doing did not exist 5 years ago. Like, and like if you learned it 5 years ago, it's not at all the same today. So like I think, I don't know if it's a negative. Like, I won't think it is a negative. It shows that you can like show up for like class on time. It shows you can like do all these kind of like,
I think it depends on the position that you're hiring for. I look at college tells me that, okay, you know how to learn if people are there to teach you. It does not tell me you have the ability to pick up a new skill on your own or learn on your own long term. And I think
that's a great way of framing it.
You know, and that's really important in a world where, you know, I'm an old school PHP guy. We're on PHP 9 now, I think. Well, I started at PHP 1. I had to relearn that language 9 times in my life, right? And because words change and stuff, and it's frustrating, or syntax changes and deprecation and all that other stuff. So, you know, knowing how to teach yourself, I think today with tools like ChatGPT and is easy, and Wikipedia and Google, I mean, the sky's the limit for a good orchestrator to do stuff today.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think it just comes down to that initial idea of like, what are we trying to do here? Like, what's that transformation that we're trying to achieve? And how do we put that on paper? It's basically everyone's becoming a marketer.
All right. JJ, we're going to do some plugging for your business here, but we're going to do it in a slightly different way.
I'm ready.
I read the Media Authentic website a little bit before we jumped on the show. And I think buyer personas and buyer stories are important, really important piece when you're building a product or a service for the world. So one, how important is that? And can you walk us through the journey on how you came up with your perfect, you know, who would be the perfect buyer for your company? Not saying that this is the only kind of buyer for you, but when you're creating your buyer story, and it's important to come up with that one buyer persona, and you might have 30 buyer personas, is where I think a lot of people get caught up. You know, what's the importance of that, and what is one of your buyer stories today?
Yeah, I think the important part is meeting people where they are and then measuring the expected outcomes. Okay, so that's the thing that people often forget is they build a page, they hit publish, and they wait for something to happen, and they're measuring the outcome only. Like they're only measuring like how many sales calls did I book, how many transactions did I have, how many things that I have, right?
Right.
What you could do is look at like the basics of that is you then take how many people saw the thing, right? And then how many people saw my application page and how many people applied, all right? Hey, 1%. Cool. Right. We got better than we had. We knew that we had 10 applications, and now we know that we had 1,000 people that saw the page and 1% filled it out. But you can get even a level more granular of like, what did you expect to happen on the page? So for example, do you have like an above the fold, like on the website when it loads, like what's it? Is it a video? Is it like a, hey, like we can help you do X, Y, and Z for A, B, and C? Book a call, right? Is that what's expected to happen? So, hey, if that's the case, then you can say, all right, so of the 1,000 people, I expect like 85% to stick around for 15 seconds and to scroll at least 10% down the page. All right. So now you've got another metric that you can add in. And so basically what we do, like from like our perspective of how we make it measurable, like a measurable outcomes that you can take action on, right, as a business, is like, okay, 1,000 people hit the page. 85% of them stuck around for at least 10 seconds. 50% of them scrolled down the page at least 50%. 25% saw the pricing / book a call. And 10% booked a call. Of those 10% that booked a call, 1 in 10 purchase. There's your 1% conversion rate.
Right.
So now what you can do is you can go back up the intention of the page of like, hey, could we fix the above the fold? We're losing 15%.
Right.
Could we fix the pricing table? We're losing 25%. Like, what can we fix? It's much more granular for you to fix it because you have these steps. All that to say, your journey of like a buyer journey of whether it's your customers, whether it's yourself to our business, whatever it might be, there's an expectation. And like to beat a dead horse, whatever is like the dating analogy is tried and true of like, you can't ask for marriage on the first date. So like, but what do you expect to happen, right? You go into that first date. We got a player up here.
Actually, I told my wife that we'd be married the minute I saw her. She walked in my bar and I said, and then 2 years later we got married. But it was a long story.
Oh, but great example, because even though you knew that, right?
I didn't know it at the time. I probably told 10 women that in my life. It's just it worked that one time.
My MO was just leading with the marriage and let's see what we could get. But usually most people kind of go with that first date with the expectation of a second date, right? Yes. And then you have like a hit rate of like maybe like 8 out of 10 people you get a second date with. 8 out of 10 people on your website will scroll down the page a little bit. You get that second, like you earned the trust above the fold and they moved below the fold. Right. So like that is like, if you're listening to this, like get a piece of paper, go to your pages and say, what do you expect to happen? And then now you have a benchmark to measure against. And then that's like what you can do. And that's very actionable.
Yeah. So I remember years ago, I can't think of the guy, Seth something, I believe, How to Build a Tribe or How to Build Tribes, bestseller author, all that stuff. I went to some seminar.
Seth Godin. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking David Goggins, and I didn't want to say the last name without and get it wrong. So I went to a seminar with him, and I remember, I raised my hand, and I told him, this was probably 2009. I'm like, are you recommending that I take the buy now buttons off of my website? He said, yeah, I think I am. I'm like, well, I can't get that past my board. I just couldn't. Like, I could not get the thought process because Amazon had beat it into our heads that buying easily is what solves the problem in e-commerce, right? That is Amazon's statement. Why doesn't that work for the small guy? Why can't the small guy make it easy to buy and get sales when they hit his website?
Like, this is where the strategy comes into play, right? Because you take the most valuable action on a website, it's usually like add to cart or like apply now, book a call. Right. If they do that, like probably one of the most valuable actions. So if you're like, we need more value, let's add more buttons. Like that's like a logical, like I just logic my way of like, we need more buttons. That doesn't work. No. Like I'll tell you that straight up. We have an e-commerce client that a while back, like years ago, like tried that. Like they were like, let's just Hail Mary this sucker. And we're going to put buy now, sticky bottom. We're going to put the buy now. Made no difference to like their like overall funnel. No difference.
Right.
And so like the small business, I think it's like the marketing. Like you've got to nail like what is the expectation and set that expectation as early on. Amazon has the benefit of like they have this brand, the expectation, fast shipping, good customer service, easily be able to like return something, right? So if those are all things that your customer would value, some customers don't give a hoot about those things. They want like a high-end thing and they want to spend the most money for it. And they want to have the best possible unboxing experience and know it's not made in like some sweatshop somewhere.
Right.
If that's your customer, then you don't want to have like the buy now. Like you might say like, hey, we have a wait list because we only produce 100 of these every month.
Right. I have a product that I take one client a month. That's it. I won't take anymore because I can't. I don't have the team to fulfill the orders. Right. I have one product.
And you want to maintain like a level of quality because like I would say it's very difficult to have like a large team and have a very high quality service. Like, and I would say like it's very hard to do that. Like you can do it, like It's possible, but like whoever started that like level of quality, it is very difficult to like keep hiring people that will ensure that. And
because we saw it with Jaguar, right? Jaguar was handmade and now it's Ford. It's still a quality product, but it's not the same.
Exactly. And like if they can't do it, it's very hard. Like I've seen agencies that are hundreds of people. And I'm like, your service is not the best. But the clients that are buying from the 100-person plus agency are the ones that like, they're like the John Deeres. We're like, we want to spend a bunch of money to know that like the end outcome will take a long time and we'll get something that the board is satisfied by and that doesn't piss anybody off.
Right.
Like they're not hiring a creative person who's like going to like do some crazy thing and like get back to you in a week. Like that's not it. So like as long as you match that, like a small business, right? Back to the original question. Like a small business is like, what are you trying to sell? Like, are you trying to sell like high volume, low margin, like Amazon? Very hard to do so, extremely hard to do so, but you could shoot for that model. Drop shippers do it all the time. But I'd say like a more advantageous route is go for high margin, high quality. And say, hey, we only do like 3 of these a month. Like I make custom wood water bottles, right? And I only it takes me 10 hours to make a water bottle and I sell them for $400 for a water bottle. Like I only make 10 a month. Yeah. Like, and then you have a bunch of marketing around, hey, like this is what we do. This is how it works. This is why. That story is very powerful.
Yes, absolutely. It's all in the story, what you want to do. I love that we live in a world today that business owners can make decisions on the kind of business and the kind of clients that they want to align themselves with, right? I agree that about your value chain, high margins, high value, low margins, lower value. I really like value for value, right? Like, hey, this is what it cost me. I've got a reasonable 20% uptake on it. That pays my employees, all those things. I like that value to value. The problem there is that you have to find really affordable ways to market those services, right? Because in the marketing world today, what you talked about is in your funnel. The other thing that they have is that they now know how much marketing dollars to put to get the 1,000 people in there. So they get their cost per acquisition down. Once you have your cost per acquisition down, theoretically, there's no stopping a company from growth. No stopping. Yeah. Once you have a solid cost per acquisition and you know that that's profitable and you can repeat that process. I mean,
exactly.
Algorithm changes are it. Right?
Yeah. And I think that comes down to like, again, what you as a business want to be, right? Like, for example, like you might be a solo person who's like, I want to be a solo person that makes $100,000 a year, that works 30 hours a week, and doesn't have a ton of stress, but I know like I need to keep doing this stuff. Or you could be the person of like, I want to have a team of 10 and we're going to keep growing, etc.
Right.
Like those are all different paths. Like I think that's like the beauty of kind of the entrepreneurship journey, right? Is you can decide what you want. And I would say like over the past decade, it's been like kind of like venture capital, big or bust. Like you're nothing if you're not Facebook, like kind of idea, right? Like I really don't like that. I like having a smaller team. Like we have a team, smaller team. I like having like that as like a more nimble piece. I can talk to everybody, etc. And then having a service that like we can rely on that. So for example, like just as on like the marketing piece, right, is that we offer like training on how to like do data like Google Analytics, GA4, Looker Studio, Tag Manager, strategizing how to sell that as a service, all that jazz, right?
Right.
People sell that as a monthly subscription all the time. Right. We're like honestly, after a year, like you shouldn't be paying us money. Like you should probably be like out there in the world doing it because we trained you on how to do this.
Right.
So like what we did is we made it like a sunset subscription. So the price it increases by $200 every time it opens. It's like a cohort base. So it started at $2,000, and it was $2,200, then $2,400, et cetera, et cetera. And then what happens is you can either go all up front, like you can pay all the money up front, totally cool, or you can pay monthly, but there's no price break. Like you don't get any discount for paying up front. It's literally going to be $2,400, 12 months, $200 a month, or $2,400 a month. And then once you finish paying, you're in. Like there's nothing else for us to sell you. There's no upsell. Okay. So what we did is we took like our lifetime value of a customer and said, here's what it is. We don't want to deal with people sticking, or we don't want to deal with like having to deal with churn and all this stuff. Once you finish your payments, you're done. Our like churn rate is like next to zero.
Right.
And so like that's where you like get the beauty of entrepreneurship of saying like I want to do something that's different. We have a small enough team that it's okay. Like I can take a little bit of risk. We can do little things. Like might bite me in the butt in 5 years, but at that point I'll have a different idea. Like we'll have something else we're going down.
Yeah.
And so like I think that's like the beauty of this whole like internet, online, all that jazz.
Yeah. My favorite company to run, and I have 2 of them right now that I'm operating, is a company of 20 employees. 10 to 20 employees. I know everybody. I know their strengths, their weaknesses. I can talk to them. We can help each other grow and really be strong. After 50, I get lost, man. It's not a fun company for me to run anymore. It is just a daily grind, and it gets to the point to where I stop knowing why I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and that is a very, very depressing place to be. So
yeah,
I choose not to be there anymore. JJ, I've had a blast talking to you about video and production and the future of marketing and all of those things. I've got a pod deck question for you. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Rapid fire.
This is totally random.
Shoot from the hip.
We'll see. I'm not the best reader in the world. You have 100K. You have to donate or create a charity. What do you do?
I would go with like donate, because I don't think with 100K you can build a charity that is going to be as impactful as 100K would do to somebody who has like corporate sponsors and they take $100,000 and like apply it directly to the ground.
Yes.
That's my hot take.
Okay. Any specific charity you give it to?
I'm a big fan of Charity Water. I think that their model is really cool. Like they get like enterprise companies to cover overhead, and then every donation that like a human, like a person gives goes directly to the ground, because they have corporate sponsors that cover like salaries and printer ink and all of that jazz. So like if you give money, if you're like, hey, let me give $5 a month or $100 a month, like that goes directly to the ground because they have corporate sponsors, right? It's just like an interesting way of like so
100% of your money goes to the field.
Yeah, 100% money goes to the field because they have like really rich like companies or people who like cover the salaries of everyone. So you don't have to be like, is my dollar going to someone's salary? You're like, my dollar's going to the ground. They've got like the organizational structure to figure out how to cover the salaries of everybody. And then they're just like marketing for actual ground dollars.
As a kid that grew up hustling, there was a moment in my life that I sold police booster decals. And if you're ever going to give money to a charity, I think the number one question you should ask the person selling it to you is what percentage actually goes to the cause, right? Because charities can do the percentages however they want to do it. So thank you for explaining that. It's Life Water?
Charity Water.
Charity Water. We'll throw a link down at the bottom. I think that's amazing. I'm assuming they're supplying clean water to third world countries and across the globe.
Yeah, you nailed it. Great. Like naming a company that actually does the thing that it says. Like that is how we started it. We could bookend this conversation with that.
Absolutely. So it's an important thing, right? Water is not everybody has water. We're very fortunate to live in an economic superpower here in America, and not everybody has water.
Yeah,
that's a problem. So I love it. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to leave with the audience before we go?
No, feel free to, if you have any questions about anything we talked about or just want to connect, hit me up on LinkedIn, JJ Reynolds, or check out betterthandata.com. If you're like, hey, I want to learn from this guy and all of his team, we got lots of awesome stuff over there. So those are my 2 things. And It was great chatting, Ken.
Thank you so much. That is it for today's show, folks. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Get to work.